From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you to this Tuesday, September the 5th, 2017's edition of For the People. Hurricane Irma is the big concern and one of the biggest stories next to headlines with the DACA program with the Dreamers. Outside Trump Tower, I just saw a bunch of protesters. Security's been called in, big police presence over there right now. Trump's asking Congress to act on this very thing. That's a big story. But in Florida, along the Gulf Coast, very concerned about this monster storm. Is growing in intensity. It's a Category 5 right now, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger as it is on a path across the Caribbean, edging closer to here, the Sunshine State. The already powerful Category 5 storm gains strength. And as the National Hurricane Center's 11 a.m. update, Irma was packing maximum sustained winds at 180 miles per hour as she's now making way towards the Leeward Islands. Now, Irma wasn't the only named storm grabbing forecasters' attention. As of 11 a.m. update, Tropical Storm Jose had officially arrived on the scene. Potentially catastrophic Irma, however, was the main cause for concern. For more hurricane news, you may want to go to NOAA's weather site, noaa.com or gov, either or you can get there. With the Weather Channel's great coverage as well, 24-hour coverage if you have cable. But preparations should be underway right now, but they say preparations should be rushed, actually, in completion of the hurricane warning area. And the center's forecast wrote in the 11 a.m. update of the storm, Irma was located 225 miles east of Antigua as 11 a.m., and she was moving west at 14 miles an hour. So forecasters, they're saying the hurricane warnings have gone up from Antigua, Barbuda, and St. Kitts in the British and U.S. Virgin Islands, a lot of those islands there. Of course, Puerto Rico and nearby islands. Hurricane watch has been issued for Guadalupe, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, the southeastern side of Bahama, and the other Turks and Caicos Islands, among other interests in the region. Hurricane warnings mean that hurricane conditions are expected within the warning area within 36 hours. And watches mean conditions are possible. So as of late today, again, the advisory was 11 o'clock, that hurricane force winds extend out from Irma by 60 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds were extended outward by 160 miles. And it is expected to follow a path that will bring it towards the northern Cuban coastline as a major storm by Friday. And if the course holds steady, she may pose a threat to Florida. And so there's already a state of emergency. Governor Rick Scott declared a state of emergency again today, made it yesterday, and the declaration includes all 67 counties within the Sunshine State. And we got folks in St. Petersburg. I was reading a news thread with one of my clients, and she was talking about saying, we're on a peninsula. This is scary. Now, she's a Christian woman. She's got a family there in St. Petersburg, and she's concerned. She's praying, but she's concerned. And we should all be concerned about the storm. Just given Texas, I think people's anxieties are up. People's flags are up. And in a good way, you can get people prepared at least so they're not unprepared. And also, you know, if you're in an area that's going to be evacuated, you got to have a plan of where you're going to go. And I already know where I'm going to go. I have, thankfully, friends all over the U.S. I just had another friend offer a place if needed. So that's a very nice thing to have, but some of you may not have a place to get out of Dodge. You may not even have the money to do it. If there's an evacuation, you may want to try, reaching out for help right now. You might be able to find a bus ticket from a church, maybe an organization in your city or whatever. Maybe there's time where you can make some phone calls or do something. There's a lot of poor people out there, folks. I have some people that are on fixed incomes that are seniors that donate to the program $5 a month, 10 and 25, whatever it is, out of their fixed income. And I'm very honored that they do, and they really love what we do. But, if you have to cancel your subscription to get that bus ticket or buy some water, do it. I don't want you to put you in hawk further, seriously. Just cancel. And by the way, if you do become a subscriber just for the people, you can cancel at any time. But that's, something you may have to do. And if needed, I'm not going to get offended. Sometimes an extra $10 or $20 during a storm prep is needed. But it is a concern, this hurricane. And I said the first hour of the program that besides water, besides obviously the food, non-perishable items, you want to make sure that you're not relying your lighting source on candles. Not candles, not the stuff you use for camping that take gas, the lanterns. Don't do that. Just use LED lighting. It's cheap. You can go to Walmart. You can buy these, magnetic lights or stick-on lights or lantern-type lights that are LED, and they're super bright. You just buy some extra batteries, but those things will last forever practically with those LEDs. And you don't want to be tripping in the dark over things that are regularly well lit and then fall, and then you can't get to a hospital because it's flooded or whatever if you have to stay in an area. But don't ride this one out. You keep your radio on, your weather radio, and if there's an advisory for an evacuation, get out. A lot of people in Houston wanted that warning. They didn't get it, unfortunately, and the local government there made that decision because they thought more people would die and enough people couldn't get out of the city because the highways were already packed, and they just thought, well, if we did a mandatory, not everybody would, and so they didn't. And some people say they didn't think it was going to be as bad as it did. What was it going to be? And, well, we know the story there. I think there's a lot of rethinking on how the city of Houston does business moving forward. If we can expect more storms like this in the future, and especially New Orleans has got to be really concerned about this too, to make sure that they're up to par with because they're just sitting there. And we all remember New Orleans. And unfortunately, a lot of Houstonians, that used to live in New Orleans, this was just like Nightmare on Elm Street, part whatever, just so PSD, bringing back all those painful, hurtful memories as they try to rebuild their new lives there and try to forget New Orleans and what happened over there. This is like insult to injury for so many people over there. They're just dealing with that, and that's got to be a tough thing, folks. And anybody that's experienced something that dramatic and that hurtful and losing everything, it's painful. They're alive, but then to happen again, ouch. That's a tough one. But we're praying for those folks as well. Pray for us here in the state of Florida as we're praying for Texas, because we'll certainly need to maybe get out. We may have to, go up north. You might be hearing For the People on my laptop and out of my studio. This area, interesting enough, I have people say, what are we going to do with your studio? It could flood. I may have to pull out a lot of the electronics, which I really don't want to do because the rewiring itself is just it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of components, believe it or not, in the studio. Once upon a time, we had a little mixer, and boy, you could just pull out real quick. But I got a full-blown Air 4 console from Audio Arts and all the channels have something connected to them. And I had a nice engineer wire everything up, and everything's just, but hopefully it doesn't have to come to that. But you have to be ready, so it might have to happen. But wherever we are, we will be on the air. I assure you, they are bringing you updates. And really, this brings back memories for me being in Florida. I've been here since 2001. But I remember vividly, shortly after I moved to Florida, about 3 years afterwards, that Charlie and all that, we had 4 back-to-back hurricanes. And each time that we had these hurricanes, back in, 2004, I was on radio and the power was out. We had some backup, but I was there at the WTBN studios. It was a Salem communications station in Tampa, Florida, and I was giving around the clock coverage of what was going on, and with the hurricane and the bans and flooding and utilities and questions that people had that called in, and it was crazy. It almost felt like a quasi, meteorologist talking about it. And I think all of us, because of the spaghetti models and all that other stuff, a good friend of mine that owns a business near my daughter's school, he shared a site with me. I think it's called spaghetti.com, and it shows tons of spaghetti models. And that cone of uncertainty, it's uncertain. We don't know, but you got your own governor of the state issuing a emergency declaration, the state of emergency, from Miami, the entire state of Florida, every county in Florida under this emergency watch and preparations to tell people, get water, get food, get ready. People are doing just that. I mean, you go into stores around here, man, it's empty. So if you got an Amazon Prime account, use it. North Korea, by the way, they might be getting ready for another ballistic missile launch towards its west coast, according to Reuters news agency, citing a South Korean paper. The Asia Business Daily, citing an unnamed source, reported today that the rocket began its move on Monday. The report said the rocket was being moved at night to avoid detection. Well, apparently they were detected, don't you think? South Korea's defense minister said that a day earlier that Pyongyang appeared to be planning a future launch, and an official with South Korea's defense ministry told lawmakers that Seoul was seeing preparations in the north for an ICBM test, but didn't provide details about how officials had reached that assessment. The South Korean military and Fox News could not immediately confirm that report. But meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley yesterday asked the body Security Council to impose the strongest possible sanctions against North Korea, against them, in response to the rogue nation's most recent nuclear test, saying that the time for half measures is over. North Korea is begging for war, Haley also said Sunday. The time for half measures by the Security Council is over, and her statements followed President Trump a day earlier condemning the test in the strongest terms. By the way, I've been talking about evacuating Seoul, South Korea, with all the troops, the millions of people that are just in South Korea itself. Well, I did a little research, and I feel a little bit better about things. And that is that South Korea, obviously, has been planning for this for some time. They do have a subway system over there. I think a lot of people knew that. But the general thinking is that they still want to get as many people out of Seoul as possible. But the subway system seemed to be a logical place to get underground, because it is believed that North Korea can't penetrate it with any bunker-busting bombs, so it's above ground. But, buildings could still be destroyed, or, they could still cause problems and cause quite a mess. But moving further north for the population to kind of get people out of the city, they said they've been talking